Let's sew a cute, quick and easy flat dinosaur. I'm Narelle from Threadistry. Here's what we'll need to make our flat dinosaur. I'm using green minky fabric for the body and the legs. This one's really super soft and snuggly. We'll need a coordinating fabric for the spikes. This is also a minky. We've got some matching thread, just some normal sew-all thread, some fiberfill or polyfill, and some embroidery thread for the simple little eye. I like it to be a tone-on-tone colour with the main fabric, so it's just a dark green here. Then we'll need our pattern pieces, which you can download for free from threadistry.com. There's a link in the show notes. And then just some basic sewing supplies like fabric marker, rotary cutter with the cutting mat, scissors, pins, and we also have a sewing needle and an embroidery needle. So this minky has nap. As you can see, if you brush it in one direction, it sticks up, and if you brush it in the other direction, it smooths down. So I'll need to take care when I'm laying out my pattern pieces to get the nap in the right direction. So I'll want it smoothing down, going from head to toe, from top to bottom. And this fabric isn't quite wide enough for me. I'm just using an offcut to be able to cut it doubled over. So I'm going to have to cut one side, then flip the pattern piece over and cut the other side, making sure I get the nap in the same direction for both sides. I prefer to cut minky from the wrong side of the fabric. It's just a little less fluffy. I'll just double check that I've got that nap in the right direction, so we're good to cut. So here we've cut out all our pattern pieces. We have two of the spine mirrored, two of the body mirrored, two of the front legs, and two of the back legs also mirrored. So next what we'll do is transfer the pattern markings. So what I like to do is punch a small hole in each of the pattern markings. With a nice thick needle. And then I just colour it in with my fabric marker. These three dots are to help place the spines on the body. And you only need to mark that on one side. And then we'll do the same for the pattern markings on the body. And I'll also do some holes in the eye to mark where I want that embroidered. And we'll be embroidering the eye on both sides of the dinosaur. So I'll flip this over. So I've got all 6 strands of my embroidery floss because I think that shows up nicely on the minky. I've tied a knot in the end And I'm just going to embroider that eye. Just doing some small back stitches. Making sure I don't pull it too tight because you don't want that eye to get lost in the minky. Now that we've embroidered the eye, our next step is to stitch along the outside of these spikes, leaving the edge that attaches to the main body open. Now I recommend using lots of pins for this to hold your layers together because minky can be slippery. If you want to, you could also mark the stitching line that I show on the pattern, or you could mark these little corners so that you know where to turn. I'm just going to sew around the edges of this piece, leaving the side that attaches to the body open. And I'm sewing with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And starting with a knot or back stitch. And I'm constantly making little adjustments with the needle down, just repositioning the fabric to get some nice smooth curves there. And when I get to the point, then I put the needle down into the fabric and pivot around that corner and get going on the next spike. And I'll finish with a locking stitch or a back stitch. Now that we've sewn that seam, we will clip the seam allowance in each of those little points, and depending on your fabric you may want to clip the curves. I'm not going to because I find minky turns quite well and it is quite a small seam allowance. So I'm just going to snip, getting as close as I can without touching the threads. And then we'll turn this right sides out. Might want to use a chopstick, a knitting needle, or the tip of your sewing shears to just smooth out all those little spikes. I just run the tip of my sewing shears along the seam to push out, and that's all sitting really nicely. If you've got any funny lumps or ripples, that's when you'll want to maybe turn it back out and clip your seams. But that's looking pretty cool. The next thing we'll do is for the front and back legs. with right sides together. We'll sew around the edge, and once again leave an opening on the side that attaches to the body. And we'll use lots of pins. And I'll turn these right sides out. Once again, running my finger or the scissors along the seam to get a nice smooth curve. Now we'll take a small amount of polyfill and just lightly stuff both the legs and the spikes. And we'll just put a little bit, this is optional, just a little bit into each of those spikes as well. So, with the right side up, we will now pin our spikes into place just on the right side of one of our body pieces. We'll check where those markings are. Line up so that the edge of the spikes is at the first marking. And there's the next marker. Okay, so we'll sew a basting stitch to attach that in. So we want to sew this just inside the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And a basting stitch is just a long stitch length with no locking stitch or back stitch at either end, so that we can pull it out if it does end up showing a bit. Now we'll baste the legs into position. So we'll just line them up with those pattern markings, align the raw edges, making sure that the legs poke towards the center of the body. And use a couple of pins to hold them in place. And once again, this is a basting stitch, so we're going to use a long stitch length and no back stitching at the start or the end, and just inside our seam allowance, so just inside 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. Let's sew our 2 body pieces together. So we want our legs and spikes tucked inwards. And then we'll put the two body pieces right sides together. Once again, using lots of pins to hold these layers together. So we'll be sewing right around the edge from this spot all the way around to here and leaving a gap for turning it right sides out. And you'll see that I put my pins in a cross configuration to remind myself to leave the gap. And it's still a 1/4 inch seam allowance and starting with a locking stitch or back stitch. So we're back at my pins that are marked as a cross. So I will finish off with a back stitch or a locking stitch. The next step is to turn it right sides out through that gap. So I'll just pull that little leg through and then push the rest of it through. And we'll smooth out all those curves and poke out that tail, just gently using my scissors. Now it's time to stuff it. So I'll break up the polyfill fibre fill into smaller pieces, and I'll start by filling that head, trying to get right down to the end. And then just keep stuffing more and more. And all the way into that tail, using a chopstick if it helps to get it right down to the end. Once you've got it stuffed just the way you like it, which is just lightly stuffed for me, then it's time to stitch together that gap. So I'm just using normal thread, I've tied a knot in it, and I'm going to stitch a ladder stitch. So just stitch along one side, over the gap, and then under the seam allowance, and then across to the other side. So the stitching should be fairly invisible. And tying a knot in the end. And then I like to feed the thread through the body of the dinosaur to bury the tail, and then just clip my thread there. And now you have a cute, awesome, flat dinosaur. Perfect for cuddling.